Welcome to the Pain Free for Good podcast, where we rediscover our body's natural ability to heal. This space is for those who have experienced chronic pain, illness, disease, or emotional trauma, and are ready to reclaim the power within themselves. Here, we explore healing, awareness, and the quiet wisdom already living inside of all of us. I'm your host, Heather Peterson, and I'm so glad you're here. Hi, I'm Heather Peterson, and this is the Pain Free Podcast. I am so excited to have you here today. I never intended to do a podcast. I thought I would just be totally content being a mind-body coach and sharing things on social media until I wasn't actually. There came a time when sharing on social media felt flat. I wasn't giving out enough information in a post or a reel. It just wasn't doing it for me anymore. And so I had a surge of energy after the first of the year, and here we are in March. We're getting into spring here, and we have a lot more energy to give. And I'm excited to hit the ground running, sharing all about overcoming pain, chronic pain, disease, illness, and emotional trauma. So you will hear my story. I'll be interviewing past clients, interviewing fellow mind-body practitioners and doctors in the industry. I'll be sharing practices that I'm excited about and tools that actually work. This podcast was definitely created for all of those things. And maybe you're asking yourself today, why is my body doing this to me? Why is my body suddenly failing? Why is my body working against me? Why is someone who was perfectly healthy all of a sudden have all this disease or dis-ease? What if it's actually your body trying to communicate something that you were never taught in this Western world? So I just want to let you know, I've been in your shoes. I've walked the path. I've had the disease. I've had the pain and the emotional trauma. And I've seen the doctors. I've seen the specialists. I've been stuck on medication and trying to find answers for myself and still not feeling good. And if that's you, you have come to the right place. I'm here to share my knowledge of how I overcame my pain and disease and how I'm helping others. My story actually began in 2009, summiting a mountain. I was going to complete 26 miles up and over a mountain, and it was about 4,000 feet of elevation gain in 13 miles. Up and back, and I was stricken with vertigo out of nowhere, seamlessly healthy at the time, and I was struck with terrible vertigo. I was forced to turn around. I was forced to go back down the mountain, and I was in a world of hurt from then on out for the next 6 years. For the next 6 years, I dealt with all kinds of conditions. The vertigo was the first. I wasn't able to drive around without having to pull over and get my bearings. I wasn't able to function as a mom and a wife. I wasn't able to enjoy the CrossFit and the running activities that I was used to. I was laying on my back a lot, trying to just find my balance. And it was really hard trying to find my way with all that. I thought at first, maybe it's the caffeine I'm taking. I was drinking a chai tea latte every night, and maybe it's just too much caffeine, but that actually was not the case. So then I thought, well, maybe I'm pregnant. I'm 25 years old. Maybe I'm pregnant. I was newly married, actually, 3 months into my second marriage, and I thought maybe that's it, but I was not pregnant. So then I thought, well, maybe my vision's failing me. So I went to the eye doctor. My vision was 20/20, nothing wrong with my vision. So then I was introduced to a specialist to address my allergies, which I had many, and I was taking the drops daily, and that didn't help. And then I ended up at the neurologist, who diagnosed me as a very dizzy girl. That was my diagnosis. I had an MRI and nothing came of it. No one was able to help me with my vertigo. And so I was sent home to just kind of suffer and get through the day, and it wasn't ideal. So from there, I developed chronic fatigue, And it was actually interesting because my mom had chronic fatigue, and she said to me, honey, you have all the symptoms I do. You probably have chronic fatigue. And so I just kind of accepted that as my new reality. I have vertigo. I have chronic fatigue. Not too long after that, I had chronic migraines, which I'll get into that in a minute, that were debilitating until I would vomit and fall asleep. I was pretty miserable and a lot of pain. From there, just kept getting better. I had adrenal problems. I was told my adrenals were shot. That was my official diagnosis. Terrible cortisol issues, female issues, that ovarian cysts and whatnot. I had plantar fasciitis. Hypothyroidism was my final diagnosis, and I was told I'd be on medication for the rest of my life. And yes, I'm using quotation marks multiple times because when all is said and done, I did not want to accept this label. It didn't make sense to me how a perfectly healthy person, suddenly their health crashes in a matter of months. And I'm left for the next 6 years trying to figure out my body, trying to feel normal, just trying to have some semblance of feeling good. And it just never happened for me. Meanwhile, my husband, my new husband, after a year and a half of being married, he developed debilitating back pain and was diagnosed with an autoimmune disease called ankylosing spondylitis, which is basically extreme back pain. And I'm going to let him share more of his story, but we were a perfect storm, disaster of pain and disease, and we were not well. Like I said, went on for 6 years until 2015. I went to a conference in Las Vegas with my husband. He's a financial advisor, and I like to go to the health breakout sessions myself. I was always interested in health and wellness, and I found myself in a classroom with a doctor that was talking about how stress affects the body. And it got my interest because I've never heard of that before. And so he went on to explain all the ways stress affects the body, and the people who are more prone to having stress affect the body, which are type A, perfectionistic, overachievers, conscientious, goodist people. They want a good mom, the good wife, the good dad, the good worker, the caretaker, all of those things. They're more prone to pain. So I thought, wow, well, that sounds like my husband. Meanwhile, not even looking at myself. And it made a lot of sense to me. And so I went back and I ordered the book from the doctor. The book was Healing Back Pain by Dr. John Sarno, and I had it delivered to my house before I even got home. And I said to my husband, after 6 years of spinning our wheels, we had bought new mattresses for him. We'd buy this special wand. I mean, the amount of money and time spent trying to heal us and to feel good and to get through life was actually insane and so costly. And it just did not add up for me. And so every day I prayed, please God, send us an answer. This doesn't make sense to me. I'm not accepting it. And that's the answer God gave. And my husband read the book and it made sense to him, but he had an official diagnosis. He had the blood factors for ankylosing spondylitis. And so it was really hard for him to accept that that could possibly be the reason why he was in so much pain. However, he said, Heather, this book is actually a lot about you. It doesn't only talk about healing back pain. It talks about all the symptoms you're dealing with, hypothyroidism and all these other hormonal things. And you should read this book. So I did. And 3 months later, I was completely off of all medication. I was on hypothyroid medication. I was on anxiety and depression medication, as well as so much money in supplements that was absolutely ridiculous, that never made me feel better, not one time. And I was completely off of it. I felt totally normal. I completely overcame everything in 3 months. And I'm going to share more about what that looked like for me. So let's just rewind a little and look what was actually going on in my life. I was newly married. I had been married previously and betrayed in that marriage and walked away as a single mom with a little boy and married my new husband who had 3 children. And trying to blend a family is a stress in itself. and overwhelming with lots of responsibility, going from one kid to four, and a year later, 5 children. We had one of our own, and just all of the chaos that ensued with both of our exes and the chaos that they brought into that journey as well. But really, I would just want to point out, I went to a craniosacral therapist, and this was really the turning point for me. It was not only Dr. Sarno's work, but it was this understanding of the underlying repressed emotion behind it. And that's what Dr. Sarno talks a lot about, but she really pointed it out to me because the body keeps the score. So she was working through my body, pulling out all this stuck energy, and she said, "You know why you have hypothyroidism, right?" And I said, "No." And she said, "It's because you don't speak your truth. You have not been able to speak your truth with growing up. You weren't able to have a voice. And then in your first marriage, you didn't stand up for yourself. And now you're misery and you're still not standing up for yourself." And so that really hit home for me. And I understood what I was doing and how the body was correlating that. It really started to make sense for me. So then I started applying the emotion associated with each of my conditions and understanding the underlying repressed emotion. And within months, right, like I said, 3 months, I was completely healed from all of those conditions. The emotion for vertigo is being overwhelmed by responsibility, and I definitely had that. It's having so much going on in your brain that you cannot even see the forest or the trees. You're just completely overwhelmed with what you have to do, the responsibility, getting through the day. Those are the thoughts I was thinking for sure. The chronic fatigue, the emotion associated with that is I don't want to cope anymore. And I didn't want to cope anymore. I was sick of having to stand up for myself. I was sick of all the responsibility. I was trying to keep the peace. I was trying to be a good mom. I was just spinning my wheels, and it just felt daunting. And like I was just getting through from one day to the next. And there was just kind of a loss for life in that time. Migraines, those of you suffering with migraines might be interested in this. Migraines have this deep root of guilt. And I'm not saying like you did something wrong, but this underlying emotion of guilt. And guilt is one of the lowest frequencies you can feel. I correlated this years later, actually, because every time I would get a migraine, I'd be on a date with my husband. And I tried thinking, what is going on? Is it the food I'm eating when we go out? Is it the drinks I'm having? Too much sugar? Like, what is it? And every time we would go out, it was guilt. I had guilt for leaving all of these children with a babysitter. I had a brand new baby with terrible reflux issues, and she would just scream and cry, and no one really wanted the responsibility of taking care of her. It was very daunting. I mean, as anyone would be, no one wants to take care of a screaming baby, but that's the life that I led with her for several months. I had a 4-year-old stepdaughter that had chronic migraines, and she would throw up multiple times a day, and especially at night. And I had another 4-year-old, my son, who was just kind of naughty and angry and punching things and just a typical 4-year-old boy, but with a lot of anger. And then I had 2 older stepchildren that were very needy at that time. And so for me to put that responsibility on someone else, I felt so guilty that someone else needed to take that on for me so that I could enjoy myself. So I just did not enjoy myself going out. I just was anxious to get back home to relieve the person who was caring for my children. So that underlying mom guilt was very saying in that time. And so if you're struggling with chronic migraines, I might ask you, what is this underlying guilt that you're feeling? And it's also not looking forward to something. What are you not looking forward to if it's a tension headache? So just food for thought. We're going to circle back to that eventually, but I want you to just start understanding each of your symptoms have an emotion behind them. Adrenals, that was being the victim of my life. And yes, I was definitely feeling like the victim of my life for a lot of those years. Life happened to me, not for me. Female issues, they're always one of two things I've noticed with every woman I've worked with female issues, whether that's ovarian or infertility or anything like that, there's always one of two things. One, they have an issue with their mother, a traumatic relationship with their mother. Or two, they have in their relationships with their partner, they have a sense of betrayal or trauma with their partner. So it's a mother thing or it's a relational thing. So I definitely had the betrayal trauma issue that was constantly in the background noise of my life. And hypothyroidism, not speaking my truth, like I said. I did have plantar fasciitis before I got married, and anything to do with the legs, the knees, the feet, the ankles, all has to do with a sense of moving forward. And I definitely did not know how to move forward in that time. And so it really was painful for me because your body is so smart. It knows what it's doing. It would rather you have pain than feel an uncomfortable emotion. And so I want you to just think, what have you been through in your life? What emotions have you suppressed that have kept you in the fight or flight mode unconsciously and have perpetuated the symptoms that you now have? So my healing journey was not exactly about becoming someone new. It was remembering who I was before I started abandoning myself. I was abandoning myself in guilt. I was abandoning myself in being a victim. I was abandoning myself by not speaking my truth. And so maybe you can look at yourself and say, in what ways do I abandon myself all the time? Can I be really honest with the things I'm feeling instead of just saying, it's fine, it's no big deal, I'll get through it. And just wearing that like a badge of honor, like I'm strong, nothing bothers me. It's not the truth. What is the truth in your life? Another thing to point out, if you've grown up in the Western culture, which is the U.S., you're most likely to hand over your power freely. Just here, take it. Here's my power. What do I have? Tell me my diagnosis. What pills do I need for the rest of my life? What surgery do I need? How many times do I have to keep coming back? How's that working out for you? The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. Don't you want to understand the root? What is causing the pain? It doesn't just come out of nowhere. You don't just throw your back out. You don't just sleep wrong on your neck. You don't have these pains come out of nowhere. Cancer doesn't just show up for no reason. That's what we've been told, but that's not the truth. We believe we're helpless. Illness happened to me. It's unpredictable. It's just fate. We have no control. It's all lies. We believe the doctors know everything and we know nothing. And we quietly betray our bodies, our spirits, without even knowing it. It is devastating to me to watch everyone around me because you know someone. If you don't have it yourself, you know someone in chronic illness, you know someone in chronic pain, you know someone who's suffered emotional trauma. And this doesn't have to be big T trauma. It doesn't have to be divorce and abuse and all of these big T traumas. It can be perceived trauma, like your childhood wasn't exactly great. And it's not that we want to shove that under the rug and just be strong, but it's taught you a belief system. It's a thought you've thought over and over until it's become your reality and it's become your personality. So if you're still living with chronic pain and disease and you have been trusting this way of life, how is it working out for you? Do you feel better? Or do you still feel sick and tired and being sick and tired? We have to ask ourselves these deeper questions. What is contributing to my pain? What emotionally is contributing to my pain? Everything that manifests physically is emotionally rooted. Every physical condition has an emotional root. So if you're having stomach issues, IBS, all of those things that associate with the stomach, you're not able to digest a situation or a person in your life. If you're having heart problems or lung problems, you have an immense amount of grief that you don't want to look at. You don't want to be honest with yourself and say, that hurts. If you're having throat problems, inability to swallow or speak your truth, or you're harsh and critical of yourself, or you have an eating disorder, there's some part of you that's not being honest with what needs to be said. Anything to do with the brain, the migraines, the jaw pain, it's all about our perception on life. What are we looking at? How are we seeing it through rose-colored glasses? Like how many pairs of glasses do you have on that's making your perception be different than what the truth actually is? So everything has an emotional root. Another thing to consider is, what is my family life like? What are the relationships I have with my parents, with my siblings, with my children, with my friends, with my neighbors, with all of the people I grew up with in life? What are those relationships like? Take a deep dive. Where is their pain? Where is their hurt? Where are there things that just didn't sit right with you? Are there big traumas? Are there little traumas? Is there something that you flash back to without having to do too much thinking about it? Another thing, what is your responsibility level right now? The age of responsibility spans from about the age of 25 to 50. That's when we get married, we have kids, we have responsibility, we have mortgages, we have all these activities. We're running our kids here and there and everywhere, and we have making dinner, taking care of a yard, all of these things. This age of responsibility is overwhelming, and we let our bodies be in the cortisol response. We are in fight or flight because the responsibility never seems to end. So these are things we have to ask ourselves, because they set us up for a cortisol response. We get stuck in fight or flight, and being stuck in fight or flight is good when there's something you have to run away from, like a bear, or throw a car over to get your loved one out. But you are also stuck in flight with the thoughts that you think. And so I want you to really think about that. If you're stuck in fight or flight, you're most likely holding your breath, restricting all of that blood flow to your extremities, and then it's coming out in pain. That's what it is. Tension myoneural syndrome. Tension of the muscles and the nerves in the body caused by holding the breath, lack of oxygen-rich blood supply, and then it comes out as pain. It comes out as disease. And that's where we get all these terrible labels. But we don't have to accept the label. Once we understand the emotion, we work through the emotion, we eliminate and we overcome the pain. That goes for emotional pain as well. So like I said, most people who are in pain are hardworking, conscientious, perfectionistic, type A, overachiever, goodist, peacemaker, caretaker. I can say, truthfully, I tend to be all of those things because I grew up in an environment where those things were praised. But it kept me in the fight or flight because I was always on edge about being a good girl, being an example, being a hard worker, not taking things for granted, taking care of my siblings, all those things. But it kept me in the fight or flight because I was never able to just fully relax. And it's no shame to my parents. They grew up in the same environment. And so it becomes a generational habit of having these standards for ourselves, for our children, that we never get to calm the nervous system down. This behavior sets us up for survival mode, for the fight or flight. Keeps this cortisol level just skyrocketing. And these are just coping mechanisms for this personality type. We deny the body's message to relax. We deny the body's message to say, hey, it's okay to get a B at school. It's okay to, have a disagreement with someone. It's okay to not be perfect. Like, what are the things that you do habitually that you feel you can't relax until you perform? It's a really interesting concept. So instead of numbing the pain, putting a Band-Aid on it for a short amount of time, we really want to understand the root cause of pain. We have to understand the body is not the enemy. The body is the messenger, and the pain is the message. There's always a message in the pain. And anyone who's overcome any pain, disease, or emotional trauma understands there is a purpose behind this pain. And you may not want to hear that if you're suffering, because when you are suffering, you want nothing more than to be out of it. But if you don't do the work and get to the root, it will keep perpetuating the pain. So here's a question for you. Can you get quiet enough to listen? Can you calm your body? Can you rest when your body needs rest? Can you say no to things that you want to say no to, but you habitually say yes when you don't want to? Can you get quiet enough to listen to what the body needs? Do you even know what that feels like? What the message is in that? I'm going to invite you right now to take a minute, whether you're sitting at home listening or you're driving. Maybe you want to pause this and come back to it. But I want to walk through a little exercise with you. I want you to relax in your chair. Maybe you're sitting in your car and you can recline the seat. If you're home, find a comfortable spot. And I just want you to completely relax. Drop your head back to the back of the chair and just relax the body. And for the next few minutes, you don't need to do anything, but just listen. Notice your body. What feels lighter? What feels heavy? I want you to begin by taking some big, deep breaths in through the nose and out through the mouth. And bring this air in, the counts of 8. And exhale. Just keep breathing those big, deep breaths, filling up the lungs. Noticing the body needs the breath to relax. And I want you to close your eyes. Really sink into the chair that you're sitting in. You could lay on the floor if you'd like. Just completely let the body melt into the floor or the chair. Notice how you feel in the top of your head. Like it's just melting down the top of your skull, down through the back of your head, releasing all of that tight pressure, relaxing all of the forehead muscles, down through the eyes. Let the eyes just relax. Relax the jaw, let the tongue fall loose in the mouth, filling up those lungs with the breath. And sending all of that loving oxygen where it needs to go, down through the back of the neck. Feel each vertebrae, one by one by one down the neck. Relaxing the shoulders, moving the head side to side. Filling up those lungs, sending the oxygen to the place of pain. Sending all of that loving oxygen to where the pain is. Relaxing all of the chest muscles, down through the tops of the arms, letting the elbows fall loose, the forearms, the wrists, the tops of the hands and the palms, and filling each finger individually, one by one by one, completely melting and relaxing, filling up the lungs. And breathing those big, deep breaths down through the spine, relaxing all of the muscles down through the back, feeling each vertebrae in the chair one by one, just melting, sinking, relaxing down into the sit bones, down into the hips, feeling all of the muscles relax in the glutes, feeling all of the muscles in the stomach just relax. Sending all of that oxygen down through the intestines, relaxing down into the pelvis, feeling lighter and more at ease, more comfortable, just melting and sinking and relaxing. Taking a big deep breath, remembering the breath, relaxing the body. You don't have to do anything else, just relax. And sending all of that oxygen down through the legs, the hamstrings, the thighs, the knees, down through the shins and the calves, just melting, relaxing, letting the legs fall loose, down into the ankles, down into the tops of the feet, the arches of the feet, and filling each toe individually, one by one by one. Now just take a moment here. Take a big, deep breath. Now notice your body. How does it feel from where you started? What feels lighter? Where were you holding the tension? What needs to be acknowledged? If you felt emotion in any of those spots, what was the emotion? Awareness is where it begins. And healing does not happen all at once. It happens by noticing, getting quiet enough to feel, to sense, and to know. Healing only happens when we slow down long enough to hear ourselves again. Hear our body connecting with our mind and connecting with our spirit. Big deep breath. Now, if there's anything I want you to take away from today, it's that healing is not about perfection. I see so many people come to me that are like, just tell me how to do it. Give me the ABC and how do I get to D? What is the formula? What is the magic formula? And I'm telling you, there is not a magic formula for everyone. Everyone is so different. Everyone has past traumas. Everyone has different responsibility. Everyone has different pain that's speaking to them. So it's not about doing it the right way. It's about relationship. The mind and the body are not separate. They're one. This is about a relationship with the body, connecting the mind back into the body, quieting the mind enough that it connects to the body and it fills the body, fills the emotions, filling into our intuition. Are you even aware that you have an intuition? What does it feel like? What is the senses? What is the knowing? What is that gut instinct? Are you tapped into that, or are you completely removed? If you've come to this podcast, we're going to do a deep dive on how to connect back into the intuition, back into the body's messages. But first, healing absolutely requires full vulnerability, full honesty, and full accountability with yourself, with your emotions that you refuse to look at and you pretend that they're not there. They are. Because if you are having pain, the body's calling you out. It's saying lies. You're lying to yourself. If you think that this body pain came out of nowhere, that's not true. Everything that manifests physically is emotionally rooted. I have seen it time and time again. I've worked with so many clients over the past 8 years that you can't tell me that's not true. People have overcome so many things. I've seen it all. And every single one has an emotional root. Are you tired of saying you're tired? That you don't feel good? That you'll never get better? That you'll always be on medication? That you'll always be in this situation? Are you willing to accept that as your truth? Because that was me once upon a time. The good news, you don't have to accept that as your truth. Healing does not come from forcing the body to be different. It comes from being willing to listen to it, to acknowledge it. It's like a little kid who falls down and scrapes its knee. What do you do with that little kid? Do you berate it and say, "You idiot, why'd you fall down? Why did you get hurt?" Or do you go to the child and say, "Oh, I'm so sorry that you have all this hurt. Let me kiss it better. Let me hold your hand. Let me walk slowly with you." And that's what I'm here to do with you. I'm here to show you we can be compassionate with ourselves. We can tap in. So whether you're navigating chronic illness, pain, deep emotional wounds, or simply trying to connect or reconnect with yourself, I want you to know there's nothing wrong with you. There's only something within you waiting to be understood. My hope is that with each podcast, this will be a reminder that you're not broken. You don't have to accept your diagnosis, your label. You don't have to accept the pain, the mind-body illness, the emotional trauma, because your body, your emotions, and your intuition are guiding you back to yourself. Thanks for joining me. Till next time. Thank you for being here with me today. If something in this episode resonated with you, just know that awareness is where our power begins. If you feel called, share this episode with someone who may need it. And don't forget to subscribe so you can continue this journey with me. Until next time, keep listening inward. Your body, your intuition, and your truth already know the way.